Attraction is a psychological battlefield. Attraction is rarely about looks, money, or luck. Many men believe that seduction is something that happens randomly, that some people are just born lucky with charm or magnetic appeal. The truth is far darker and far more precise. Attraction is a psychological battlefield, and understanding the terrain is the first step toward mastery. Every interaction with a woman is a silent negotiation, an unspoken contest where body language, tone of voice, choice of words, and even subtle timing all influence the outcome. What separates those who succeed from those who fail is not genetics, height, or status. It's the ability to navigate this battlefield strategically. Women, whether consciously or unconsciously, are constantly scanning for signals. They are analyzing behavior, energy, and subtle cues that reveal confidence, social proof, and emotional stability. Every glance, smirk, or pause carries meaning, and they react instantly to signals that indicate dominance, competence, or scarcity. The moment a man understands this, he begins to see that attraction is less about trying to impress and more about controlling the psychological space in which desire is formed. The battlefield is not physical. It is entirely in the mind. The ability to read and influence this mental space is what separates a man who can create instant chemistry from one who fumbles blindly. Understanding this battlefield begins with awareness. Most men fail because they underestimate the complexity of attraction. They approach women with a surface-level strategy, relying on jokes, compliments, or small talk without understanding the underlying forces at play. Yet, every interaction is loaded with psychological signals. A confident posture, an intentional pause before speaking, the subtle way one maintains eye contact, or even the way one enters and leaves a space. All of these elements communicate dominance, value, and emotional intelligence without a single word being spoken. Women are tuned to these frequencies instinctively, which is why some men can have a woman interested within minutes, while others with similar looks and status are ignored. The battlefield also demands timing and control. In any interaction, there are moments of tension, moments of curiosity, and moments when desire is strongest. Knowing when to advance, when to hold back, and when to introduce playful challenge is crucial. Push too hard and the connection falters. Pull too little and the opportunity is lost. The man who masters this dynamic understands the invisible rules. Attraction is not a linear transaction. It is a subtle war of perception, where every small move shifts the balance of interest. Energy is another weapon on this battlefield. Women are drawn to men who radiate certainty and purpose, who project stability even in the midst of chaos. Emotional volatility, neediness, or desperation signals weakness, and this is immediately recognized on a subconscious level. On the other hand, controlled energy, calm confidence, and a measured sense of humor act like a magnet. Mastering energy management is one of the most underrated yet powerful tools in the psychology of attraction. It is not about pretending to be fearless. It is about cultivating an internal state that communicates control, competence, and the ability to handle uncertainty. Lastly, awareness of the battlefield allows for strategy in creating emotional experiences. Women respond to emotions more than logic. The most effective seduction occurs when a man can guide her through a series of emotional peaks and valleys, moments of intrigue, laughter, challenge, and subtle tension that activate desire. Every interaction becomes a test of perception, and the man who understands this can create instant attraction by orchestrating feelings rather than relying on superficial charm. The psychological battlefield is not about domination in a crude sense. It is about understanding perception, influence, and emotional resonance in a way that makes connection almost inevitable. Confidence is the unspoken weapon. Confidence is the foundation of attraction, yet it is widely misunderstood. Many think it is about looking good, having money, or showing off achievements. The truth is far more subtle and far more powerful. Confidence is an unspoken weapon, a silent signal that communicates strength, security, and value without ever needing to be articulated. Women respond instinctively to confidence because it signals stability, competence, and emotional intelligence. all traits that are wired into female psychology as markers of desirability. The man who understands this does not rely on luck, charm, or superficial tactics. He knows that true attraction is built on the energy he projects, the way he carries himself, and the unshakable belief in his own worth. Confidence is not arrogance. There is a fundamental difference between projecting self-assurance and bragging to fill a void. Arrogance is loud, overcompensating, and desperate for validation. Confidence is quiet, grounded, and self-contained. It does not need to seek approval because it already exists internally. Women can sense the difference immediately. When a man enters a room with authentic confidence, the energy shifts. His presence alone communicates that he is a person of value, someone worth noticing, someone capable of leading, protecting, and navigating challenges without panic or hesitation. This is the kind of confidence that triggers attraction instinctively. The roots of confidence lie in self-mastery. It comes from knowing one's strengths and weaknesses, accepting both without fear, and cultivating a mindset that is resilient in the face of rejection or adversity. A confident man is not threatened by resistance. He understands that attraction is a dynamic process, and the ability to remain composed under pressure amplifies desirability. Women are wired to pick up on subtle signs of uncertainty, hesitation, or neediness. Even a fleeting doubt in posture, tone of voice, or choice of words can undermine attraction. True confidence eliminates these signals, replacing them with calm authority and subtle magnetism that draws interest effortlessly. Confidence also manifests in the way a man interacts with his environment. The way he walks, stands, and moves communicates more than words ever could. A steady gaze, relaxed shoulders, and deliberate gestures convey control and presence. The pauses between speech, the modulation of voice, and the ability to listen without interrupting all amplify the perception of self-assurance. This is why some men, regardless of appearance, can captivate attention and ignite desire almost instantly. Confidence is a language, and those who speak it fluently bypass superficial judgments and reach deeper psychological levels of attraction. Another critical aspect of confidence is independence. Women are instinctively drawn to men who live full, purposeful lives outside of validation or attention from others. This independence communicates self-sufficiency, emotional stability, and a high sense of personal value. When a man operates from this state, interactions are no longer about chasing approval. They become opportunities to create connection and mutual interest. The energy shifts from neediness to magnetism, from insecurity to intrigue, from desperation to playful challenge. Confidence becomes not just an attribute, but a strategic tool, guiding the dynamics of attraction without manipulation or force. Lastly, confidence is contagious. It shapes perception in ways that logic cannot. Women may not consciously articulate why they are drawn to certain men, but they feel it at a visceral level. The ability to maintain composure, speak decisively, and move with purpose triggers subconscious admiration and desire. Confidence is not learned overnight. It is cultivated through experience, self-awareness, and intentional practice. The man who embraces this understanding turns every interaction into an opportunity to demonstrate unshakable value, effortlessly positioning himself as desirable, compelling, and magnetic without ever needing to force the outcome. Emotional triggers are the hidden keys. Understanding attraction requires looking beyond appearances, beyond superficial charm, and beyond the usual cliches. At its core, attraction is a response to emotions. Women are wired to respond to feelings more than logic, and this is where emotional triggers become the hidden keys to creating desire. Every interaction is an opportunity to activate these triggers, whether it is curiosity, excitement, tension, or challenge. Those who master the ability to recognize and influence emotional responses gain access to a level of attraction that is almost magnetic. It is not about manipulation or deceit. It is about understanding human psychology and using it deliberately to guide perception. Every woman has a subconscious set of emotional triggers that shape her attention and desire. Some respond to humor and playfulness, others to dominance or mystery, and others to challenge and intrigue. The key lies in observing, listening, and subtly introducing the right stimulus at the right time. A well-timed tease, a carefully placed story, or a small act that surprises can activate curiosity and emotional arousal without seeming forced. This is the hidden architecture of attraction. Small, calculated emotional shifts that make the woman feel alive, intrigued, and connected, even before words like or love enter the picture. Excitement is one of the most powerful emotional triggers. Women are drawn to men who create moments of unpredictability, who inspire a sense of adventure and possibility. This is not about chaos or recklessness. It is about energy that keeps interactions dynamic and stimulating. The right balance of challenge and reward creates peaks of emotional intensity, which leave lasting impressions on her mind. Emotional memory is far stronger than logical memory, and the man who can craft experiences that hit these emotional peaks will occupy her thoughts long after the interaction ends. Curiosity is another critical trigger. Women are instinctively intrigued by what they do not fully understand. Mystery, subtle complexity, and hints of depth ignite interest because the mind seeks to solve puzzles. When a man maintains a level of unpredictability and depth, he taps into this natural drive, making her want to learn more, explore further, and engage more deeply. Emotional triggers are effective not only because they create desire in the moment, but because they plant seeds of ongoing fascination, making her continually invest attention and energy into understanding him. Tension and contrast are equally essential. Desire is amplified when there is a push and pull, when moments of warmth are followed by brief distance, when reassurance is balanced with challenge. Women are biologically and psychologically wired to pursue that which feels slightly elusive. By controlling emotional rhythms, knowing when to intensify connection and when to step back, a man can activate attraction at a level that is instinctive, almost primal. This creates a dynamic where she is mentally and emotionally engaged, actively participating in the connection rather than passively observing it. Emotional triggers also extend to the subtle signals of confidence and social awareness. Women respond to men who can read the room, sense mood shifts, and act accordingly. The ability to mirror, amplify, or challenge emotions in a calibrated way signals intelligence and emotional competence. This is another layer of attraction. The woman is drawn not only to how the man makes her feel, but to his ability to navigate complex social and emotional environments effortlessly. Emotional triggers are therefore not isolated tactics. They are part of a broader strategy of influence that communicates value, stability, and intrigue simultaneously. The mastery of emotional triggers transforms every interaction from mundane to magnetic. It moves attraction from the superficial into a realm where desire is anchored in psychological resonance. By activating curiosity, excitement, tension, and emotional engagement, a man becomes a figure of fascination, someone who is not easily forgotten, someone who occupies mental space because he has touched her on levels beyond words. Emotional triggers are the hidden keys because they unlock the natural mechanisms of female desire, making connection inevitable when applied with awareness, precision, and consistency. Mystery and challenge drive desire. Desire is not a product of transparency or overexposure. It thrives on uncertainty, subtlety, and challenge. Women are biologically and psychologically wired to pursue that which feels slightly out of reach, that which requires effort, thought, or curiosity. Mystery is one of the most powerful forces in attraction because it activates the mind, triggers emotional arousal, and fuels anticipation. A man who understands this knows that revealing everything too soon kills intrigue, while carefully maintaining layers of depth draws attention, fascination, and investment. Mystery is not about lying or creating a false persona. It is about cultivating a sense of depth, independence, and unpredictability that keeps her psychologically engaged. Challenge, in a similar way, stimulates desire. Women are naturally attracted to men who present obstacles, not in a mean or cruel way, but in a manner that signals confidence, self-respect, and value. If a man is too easily available, too eager, or too predictable, the mind registers this as low value, and interest diminishes. Conversely, a man who balances availability with independence, who can pull back without losing composure, communicates strength and self-assurance. This challenge activates pursuit instinctively, creating a dynamic where she is mentally and emotionally invested in earning attention, connection, and approval. Mystery and challenge are two sides of the same coin. They work together to make a man compelling, magnetic, and unforgettable. Maintaining mystery requires intentionality. It is not passive. It is a skill that involves pacing, restraint, and subtlety. The most effective men do not reveal everything about themselves immediately. They share selectively, allowing glimpses of personality, passion, and intellect without overexposing their entire identity. This selective disclosure creates curiosity, prompting her to pay closer attention, ask questions, and seek deeper understanding. By revealing just enough to intrigue but never enough to saturate, a man positions himself as a puzzle, a challenge, and a figure worth pursuing. Mystery transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary because it engages her mind in a continuous process of discovery and anticipation. Challenge also requires careful calibration. It is not about playing games or being manipulative. It is about creating situations that highlight value while preserving autonomy. Simple actions, such as taking time to respond thoughtfully, demonstrating high standards, or maintaining an active life outside of the connection, signal that a man is not dependent on validation. This type of challenge naturally excites pursuit because it activates intrinsic desire to invest in something meaningful, scarce, and emotionally rewarding. Challenge combined with mystery produces a psychological tension that keeps attraction alive over time, generating intrigue and emotional engagement that are difficult to resist. Another critical aspect is the rhythm of interaction. Desire is amplified when moments of closeness alternate with moments of distance, when intensity is balanced with calm, and when warmth is contrasted with subtle restraint. This push and pull dynamic mirrors the natural cycles of pursuit and interest that are deeply embedded in female psychology. By consciously managing this rhythm, a man can make every interaction stimulating, memorable, and psychologically compelling. Mystery and challenge are therefore not isolated tactics. They are part of a broader strategy that orchestrates emotional and cognitive engagement over time, creating a deep sense of fascination that goes beyond surface-level attraction. Mystery and challenge also enhance perceived value. When a woman senses that a man is confident, independent, and selectively open, she subconsciously attributes higher status, emotional intelligence, and desirability. These perceptions are reinforced every time she experiences the subtle tension created by intrigue and challenge. The interaction becomes a game of psychological engagement, where her attention, interest, and desire are continually activated. Mystery and challenge are the mechanisms that transform casual interactions into magnetic connections, making a man unforgettable because he occupies a space in her mind that few others can reach. Ultimately, mastery of mystery and challenge is about controlling perception, managing emotional engagement, and creating an experience that stimulates pursuit. It is about being present without being predictable, available without being desperate, and open without being fully exposed. When executed effectively, mystery and challenge transform attraction from fleeting interest into sustained desire, making the dynamic intensely compelling and psychologically irresistible. Words are weapons, not just pleasantries. Most men underestimate the power of language and attraction. Words are far more than tools for communication. They are weapons, instruments of influence that can ignite desire, establish dominance, and create emotional resonance. The average man relies on cliches, generic compliments, or small talk, assuming that charm or humor alone will carry the interaction. This is a grave mistake. Words are not filler. They are signals that communicate intelligence, emotional depth, confidence, and subtle dominance. Every phrase, pause, and tonal inflection carries meaning, and mastery of language transforms ordinary interactions into magnetic experiences that are impossible to forget. The first principle of using words effectively is precision. Every sentence should have purpose, whether it is to provoke curiosity, challenge perception, or evoke emotion. Random chatter and flattery are ineffective because they lack psychological weight. Women respond to depth, wit, and intentionality. A well-placed story, a thought-provoking statement, or a teasing remark communicates intelligence and presence, signaling that the speaker operates on a higher plane of awareness and understanding. Words, when used with strategy, become an extension of the man's energy, conveying value without the need for grand gestures or overt displays of status. Subtlety is another critical component. Effective communication in attraction is rarely overt. It is not about declaring dominance or stating desire outright. It is about implying it, weaving it into the interaction so that the message is received unconsciously before it is acknowledged consciously. A single well-timed comment, an observation that demonstrates insight, or a playful challenge can ignite curiosity and emotional engagement far more than direct statements ever could. The man who understands this transforms ordinary conversations into psychological exercises that influence perception and trigger desire. Language also interacts with emotional triggers. Words are a conduit for creating emotional experiences, for activating curiosity, excitement, or intrigue. The choice of vocabulary, tone, and rhythm influences the way a woman feels in the moment. Humor can disarm, storytelling can captivate, and teasing can create tension, all of which are essential components of attraction. Words become tools to orchestrate emotion, guiding her through a sequence of psychological peaks and valleys that make her experience intense and memorable. The man who masters this aspect of communication controls not only the conversation, but the emotional landscape of the interaction itself. Another aspect is the power of framing. How something is said often matters more than what is said. Framing allows a man to position himself as confident, dominant, or intriguing without needing to state it explicitly. By framing experiences, questions, or observations in a way that highlights value, intelligence, and social awareness, he shapes perception and guides her understanding of the dynamic. Women respond instinctively to framing because it communicates subtle authority and psychological competence, traits that are deeply wired into attraction. The most effective use of words also involves listening. Language is not just about talking. It is about creating a dialogue that amplifies connection. By paying attention to her responses, noticing subtle cues, and reflecting back understanding, a man can use words to validate, challenge, and intrigue simultaneously. This interplay demonstrates emotional intelligence, attunement, and depth, all of which heighten attraction. It is the combination of strategic speaking and attentive listening that turns words into a weapon capable of influencing perception, shaping emotion, and generating desire. Finally, mastering words requires practice, awareness, and a deep understanding of female psychology. It is not learned through repetition of scripts or memorized lines. It is cultivated through observation, experimentation, and refinement. Every interaction becomes a laboratory for testing how language impacts perception, emotion, and attraction. The man who commits to this level of mastery elevates every conversation into a tool of influence, a weapon that draws interest, commands attention, and makes him unforgettable. Words, when wielded effectively, are not just pleasantries. They are the most powerful instruments in the arsenal of seduction, capable of shaping desire, perception, and emotional engagement on a level that transcends superficial attraction.